Yeah.
There we go. Now we're live.
Now we're live. Okay, let's try this again. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You've got your usual suspects here. How's everybody doing this fine Saturday?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Okay. How was the Thanksgiving?
A lot of work for all the food to be eaten in 20 minutes.
Touche, but
Yeah.
the leftovers are to die for.
Yeah,
I think
I
next
look
year
forward to that. That's probably one of my favorites because of the food and then leftovers and hanging out with the fam.
I got
Definitely.
leftovers for days, that's for sure.
So right now, all we got in the chat is White Sox Tom. I do know that Adam just he's probably still in the middle of a card sale with Maddie, so
Yep.
it'll be some time before they come on over.
Yep.
But we're not going to wait for them. We're going to go ahead and proceed.
Sounds good.
Now you're wondering, Tom, and we'll bring it up again later, why we started a little bit early. Well, when you really get into really good discussions and interaction with the chats and all that, you tend to lose track of time. So we figure rather than do a whole bunch of random subjects and try to crunch it all in an hour, we'll come up with one quality topic that we feel that will draw in a lot of attention, and we'll take advantage of that as much as we can. We're playing with a 2-hour window right now. All right.
Yeah.
So in case you've seen the thumbnail and are wondering what's this topic going to be tonight, well, basically the thing is, so right now I say about 85 to 90% of everybody who's involved in the hobby tends to go after the big names, the Skeens, the Cheerios, the J-Rods, and all these other guys that are doing great things. And you can tell that they're doing great things because when you try to go find a card on eBay or ComC or whatever, the prices are astronomical. But now, what about all those dinosaurs from way back when who have a little controversy under their belt? What you think, Mike?
I missed it a little bit of what you were talking about because I had to jump on YouTube so I can actually chat with people. But
No worries.
Yes, basically, I say a vast majority of today's collectors are going after today's players, because they're clean and so far.
Sure.
Okay. But then what about those guys that's got these astronomical numbers, but they've got a little dirt in their closets?
It was, we brought this up on Wednesday when we got together, and we started bringing up players' names, like who I'm going to go with, Arnie's going to go with, and you're going to go with. And then we started looking at their card values. And it was really shocking to see how much people were paying for these cards now. Well, basically because print runs were lower back then, and everybody that was lumped in that steroid era, even if you weren't on the report or not, were on the report or not, the cards are still selling, and they're selling at good prices. And I really don't see the prices going down, which is really kind of bizarre. You think that there would have been a drop off, and then everybody would have stopped collecting. Oh, he was a steroid player. Why am I going to collect him? But no, quite the opposite. That there is still value in those cards.
Right.
You're talking the Barry Bonds, the Mark McGuires. I don't even think we touched on Canseco. I don't know what.
No, we haven't touched on McGuire or Canseco.
A lot of those players,
but there's a lot of players out there that were involved in that era, and I know that with the chat, and like you said, we're starting an hour earlier, that there's going to be players on certain teams that people that still collect. Like you pull a Sammy Sosa out of Dunross, and Matty goes, "Oh, Sosa," and they're still going to collect those cards, but let's see what the collectability is on those cards. I don't want to use the word value. It's collectability, because value, collectability, kind of goes hand in hand. But are people still collecting those cards?
I mean, the way I look at it,
the answer is yes.
the higher the dollar value, the bigger the community is of collectors of that player.
Yeah, it's the supply and demand that we see even right now with whatever player it is that we talked about that's currently. But I do want to add one comment to your topic, and I just happen to think of this now, is I think it's good to reflect on this. And the reason I say this is because if you're having a hard time with the prices of the new stuff right now, it's okay to not go after those players right now. Take that money or your card hobby budget for the month or whatever it may be, and maybe focus that on those players that you did enjoy growing up with and watch play, and disregard the fact that, okay, he has this stain or he has this, but I still enjoyed collecting them. And, that's the topic. How do you feel now that you found out, X amount of years later that he's part of the steroid era? And we all collected the McGuires and we all watched the chase, and it was great for baseball and all those things. But we have to, once we find out news about anything in life, we have to make decisions. And for me, I still enjoy collecting all of it. So I think it's good, but I think it's a topic to not get caught up in the new stuff if you feel yourself going off in tangents with collections right now. And I have to collect this guy because he's the hot new item, or this guy's popular, so I need to open this product to try to get one of those. Maybe just go try to find a box from 95, 96, 97 that's 20, 30, 40 bucks on eBay and have some fun with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Agreed.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
So what we got in store for everybody is, between the three of us, we went ahead and picked a player from that era who has a tarnished career to some degree. And then we've actually tried to compare them to a modern player with somewhat of a similar discrepancy on their resume, if you will. So with this one, we're going to go ahead and lead it off with Arnie. Who did you pick for your 90s era player?
Okay, my 90s era player is, and again, complete bias pick because I'm a homer. So I went with Albert Bell. And the reason I went with him, surprisingly, it's not due to steroids. He did have a cork bat issue where one of his bats were confiscated, and then it actually went into the tunnel or the dugout area where it was taken back to an office. And then allegedly an employee at the Cleveland Stadium went through the ceiling tiles, the drop ceiling, and dropped through the ceiling of the umpire's office. I guess they have a locked office for where they where the umpires get together, and they may have like a locker room of some sort. It's a locked room, probably just a regular room with a door and a drop ceiling, and they were able to get back there and retrieve the bat. So that was something that was controversial. When he went to Baltimore, they decided to egg his house, some kids, and he went after him and chased him. So that was on the news at one point. So, and he was one of those guys in the locker room that back then, when reporters were everywhere and in locker rooms, he didn't give you any airtime. He didn't give you anything to write about other than the game and then what he put on the field. He was one of those guys where potential Hall of Famers we see today, they're still waiting to get in, got snubbed because they didn't give time to the quote unquote writers who vote these people in, which is, to me, it's a joke. That's just how I feel about it. It has nothing to do with his play on the field. But I think Magnus said earlier, it's not that people aren't collecting these. It's just what we see on the internet or on YouTube. So he is partially right there, because these refractors and different inserts from these sets that are very desirable, his are not cheap. And he's a fringe Hall of Fame guy. He's one of those guys where when we talk about Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, he's fringe in the sense that they just needed 1 or 2 more years of what they were doing. Will Clark, we can go on and on and on. And yes, everyone's going to compare it to Harold Baines, but that's the easy go-to conversation. But looking at the numbers, he's a fringe Hall of Fame guy, got snubbed for MVPs, had a completely better year than X, Y, and Z player, but he was always getting votes. He just never got the MVP. And everyone knows, when you're cranking out 40 doubles and 40 home runs, like these numbers that they're putting up is is something special, but he never got tied to PEDs. He just had some other stuff going on. So that's why I picked him, because there is 3 other factors: the cork bat, the length of his career, the best moment, if anyone wants to watch online, asking the catcher to tell his pitcher to put the effing ball over the plate. And he didn't want to take the walk. And it's all over the internet. But Fuego has his stats right up here. 295 lifetime average, 1,700 plus hits, 381 home runs, 1,239 RBIs, on base percentage of 369, slugging 564, which is really high, and almost a 950 OPS and 144 OPS plus, a 40.1 WAR. Like I say, when I say fringe Hall of Famer, of course I would say he's a Hall of Famer, and a lot of people do. But even if he didn't have that issue with the writers and the issue with the cork bat, I still think he's not getting in based on those numbers. But he was amazing in the 90s, the mid 90s. He was part of the 2nd or 3rd ranked behind the Yankees, the 20s Yankees. The 2nd ranked offense in all of baseball history was the 95 Indians. And you can read up on that. So yeah, he was a big part. He was feared at the plate like all these other big hitters like Barry Bonds was. And I just think he's the guy that needs 2 more years, like all these other guys that should be in, which we see a lot in the comments now, like the Will Clarks and that stuff. So, and again, I personally love it because you can go out and find these cards at a very affordable price. Now, what Magnus is saying is the stuff that's gaining popularity on Instagram and Facebook and things like that we don't see on YouTube a lot is those very expensive refractors and just base insert cards that aren't even numbered. They're so hard to obtain in high grade. They command a huge premium. So that's where I'm at with my old player, so to speak. So
now, do you think Albert Bell's collectability is just centralized within the Cleveland area, or?
No, I think when you look at people like me that did collect around that era, when I go back to my old collection, because a lot of these guys that are collecting today and what's making this hobby bigger is guys that are our age, between 30 and 50 that now have maybe a little bit of disposable income or settled in a job or a family. And now they have X amount of dollars and they just want to share cards with their kids, whatever the reason is. They get back into the hobby is the main point. They're going after the stuff that made them happy when they were kids. So I'm going after players like that, where Mo Vaughn, Will Clark, Palmeiro obviously was that era too. All those guys that hit all those home runs, we all collected them in the 90s. Everybody in these chats, so that's kind of how I view it. I think people that are collecting that stuff now aren't shying away from, oh, it's Albert Bell because he did this. I don't want that card, but let me collect the McGuire, the Griffey, the Sosa, or whoever. I don't think they're leaving him out for any specific reason to answer that question.
Okay. Because I do know that I am a part of a sports card forum called Freedom Cardboard, and there is literally 2 guys on there who are deemed Albert Bell collectors, and they have no issues justifying
dropping some big money.
Yes.
Yeah. And
none at all.
Another person that's not controversial, real quick, just to tie into that, is Kenny Lofton. There's me and one other guy that just go head to head on tough cards on eBay. I just want to find out who he is so I could say, hey, look, don't. All right, I'll let you get this one. Let me get this next one. Yeah. And he's a guy that could get in the Hall of Fame, and we don't need to get into that now. But it's a personal collection of mine, and he played with Albert Bell and things like that. So yeah, it's the same thing. If I was a super collector, quote unquote super collector, you could get really ugly with some of these values. So what Magnus said here too, where he's talking about PMGs and credentials, those are a lot of really rare ones that he's right. They're selling for tens of thousands of dollars because those collectors, they have to have that card. And it's so rare. What's nice about this, though, the reason I mentioned Magnus's comment is ask your friends if they still collect. These cards are in collections. A lot of these cards that are popular, we skimmed over them in 92, 93, 94, 95. Yeah. And they got put into boxes, or they didn't even make it into your binder. So a lot of times if I go look at a collection, people will say, well, here's the good stuff and here's all the box stuff. It's the reverse. I said, okay, no problem, but I want to see that. I want to see your junk. What you think is junk, I want to see, because that targets something that was not good in the 90s when you collected, but is good now. and that's where it's hiding. So
Agreed.
just be mindful of those cheap boxes, those dollar boxes. You can get lucky and pull some real rare stuff that's common players of tough insert sets from the 90s, and they're very, very valuable.
Right. Well, we can all agree that all those high-end cards from way back when will definitely hurt somebody's pockets.
Mhm.
But for purposes of discussion, we're
Sure.
primarily focusing on their rookie cards for
the average collector.
just to keep it a smaller spectrum. But yeah, I mean, definitely, he may not have been involved with the PEDs and anything like that, but he just was a little brash and a little rough around the edges. So yeah, I mean, you'll tend to rub people the wrong way with that kind of attitude, and you end up being on the naughty list, if you will.
Yeah, a lot of respect though within the players though. The players definitely respected him. I think it's Fernando. God, I'm drawing a blank on the last name for Seattle when he was running from first to second, and he just got tired of being in the base path. He just laid him out, and the camera on that video, if you look it up on YouTube, it pans from both dugouts. Nobody moves. Today, or any other guy, there would have been benches clearing fights.
Oh yeah,
there was no fights back then. Nobody moved. Everyone looked at each other like, "Wow, okay."
That just happened.
Nobody moved. That told you everything you needed to know. Grab your glove and hat and get back up there and
sit back and watch it and enjoy the show. Okay.
So yeah, that's my
that's an awesome pick.
Throwback player. Yep.
What about you there, Mike? Who's on your radar?
For the older players, I'm going to go with Juan Gonzalez from the Texas Rangers. Well, 1 year in Kansas City and a cup of coffee in Cleveland. But even though I was out of collecting cards at that time, there were certain players that I looked at, and everybody was going, "Oh, McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, all this," and I always look at like the tier below that, not the ones that everybody's talking about. And there were a couple of players that I really liked, like Vladdy Jr. Juan Gonzalez was one of them, and Juan Gonzalez became one of my PC players. I only collect about maybe 3 or 4 non-Philadelphia Phillies for my PC, and Juan Gonzalez is one of them. And I have the baseball reference up here. I mean, he won the MVP twice. He was in the running several times. He has a career WAR of 38.7, which is kind of low. But if you look at his home runs, 434 home runs, batting average of 295. I mean, he was consistent pretty much every year. Now, I didn't delve into every year of his career, but in 94, 95, he didn't play full seasons. So, and then all of a sudden he comes back and, he's hitting 47, 42, 45 home runs. So he kind of got lumped into all of that steroid era kind of, okay, well, he's probably doing steroids, because they look at the past couple of years where he's only hitting a handful of home runs, and all of a sudden he explodes into hitting 40 home runs. So he's my player. He's collectible market, unless it's the 1990 Donruss reverse negative image in a PSA 10, which is going for few $100s. Most of his rookie cards and autograph cards are relatively inexpensive. PSA 10 Upper Deck rookie card you can get for under $20.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I look at PSA cards is, if you just buy the card for $3 or $4 and you got to pay for it to get graded and all that stuff and hope it comes back at 10. Okay, well then, you just invested $20 into that card. So why not just go on eBay and buy it for $20 if you get a 10? Or, if you just want the card, like his reverse negative PSA 10 is going for a couple $100. And I was like, well, I don't need a 10. I like the card. So I got it in the 7. I paid $8 for it. It's like, I have that card. It's in a slab. It's protected. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. It's like, you don't have to get the 10 of anything. You can get the 9 if you just want to collect the card.
Unless you just happen to be that OCD guy who has to have
the 10 of everything. Yeah. I mean, one day I might become that person and get the 10, but right now I just want to get my favorite players, and I want to get them at a good, just get the card in a slab, because I know when Fuego and I were talking about, well, what about, like the Eddie Murray cards and stuff like that? I was thinking, I might send this one to get graded. Well, what if it comes back a 7? How much is it going to cost me for a 7 on eBay? It's only going to cost me $8. So why should I spend 15 on it or something like that? But Juan Gonzalez is one of the few players that I collect. He was never on the list. And that's what I'm not going to go into detail like Arnie, because he never played in Philadelphia, so I don't know all the details about Juan Gonzalez. And interleague play, I only got to see him in like the later 2000s or the early 2000s, but that was about it, unfortunately. So that's my guy.
So now with Juan Gon, I'm sure you've looked at previous sales of everything that he's got at a 10.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those numbers were pretty up there, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it depends on the card. It depends on the year. I mean, if you're looking at rookie cards, I mean, the Donruss card is the one that's almost impossible to grade a 10. Okay. And the ones that do grade a 10, it's a low pop. And they're like, $200, $300 a piece.
So just off of that, even though he's been tied to the Mitchell report.
Tied to, but not listed.
Correct. Would you think that there's still a community out there that just may happen to say, yep, Juan Gon happened to be one of my top 3 guys?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a Philly guy, and he's like in my top 3, non-Philly PC players. So I'm sure that there's plenty more people out there.
I think when I mentioned Albert Bell, when you asked me that same exact question, I brought up quickly Mo Vaughn. I was just thinking big power hitters, and I left out him because I knew Mike was that was his choice. But quickly when I said those guys like Mo Vaughn, I would have said Juan Gon, Frank Thomas, all that stuff. Those were the guys. That's who we collected, and I think he's right in there with all of them. And who also is a big collector of Mike Moynihan, that does that another show or channel. Baseball collector is his name. He's a really big Juan Gonzalez fan. Obviously, he's a Texas Ranger fan, things like that. Right. But there's more guys like him that aren't from Texas that collect a lot of him. Yeah, and I think all the players we're talking about. Also, if you go on Facebook and just type in the name, you'll find Facebook groups and trade groups and buy-sell groups of just that player. Like you just type in Griffey, and there's dozens. So there's collector groups that just share and don't sell cards. They just show their cards and show their PC stuff. There's different types of that, but there is one for Juan Gonzalez, and there's probably more than the one that I, subscribe to
definitely.
Or whatever. So
definitely. So I mean, their scandals aren't as memorable as others. Okay, but based off of that, neither of those players that y'all have mentioned are in the Hall of Fame. So we are going to kick it up a notch with a little more controversy. And the guy that I'm talking about,
the guy over your right shoulder.
Yeah, that happens to be the guy over my right shoulder. Okay. And obviously everybody knows I eat, sleep, and poop A-Rod. But with that, I believe even with the scandals that he has, in my opinion, he's probably top 5 of the most hated players in the game in all MLB history, because not only did he go publicly at first and lied about use, he is arrogant. He thinks he's better than everybody. And I mean, I can see why he thinks he's better than everybody statistically. And I say that because, I mean, 117 WAR, okay, over 3,000 hits, over 600 home runs, batting average, it's respectable, okay? I mean, he's got some records. His resume is stellar. Now, I know there's going to be some people in the chat, and I'm not going to mention Adam's name, but they're going to say a lot of his resume is based on is revolving around PEDs. So I hold my beer, and let's look at it from a different perspective. So we're looking at a documented 1/3 of A-Rod's career sabotaged under PEDs. Let's take away 1/3 of his accolades. He's still a Hall of Famer, regardless. Okay, I mean, he'll only have 2 MVPs. We'll say half of 14, a third of 14 would likely be, I don't know, I can't math. But I mean, he's put up some ridiculous numbers, and he played for 3 teams. When he was with Seattle, yeah, had a rocky start and everything, but in 96 is when he started picking it up. Okay. Then he goes over to Texas, start doing big things over there. And during this time, he actually recorded the highest contract in MLB history at that time. 10 years, $252 million. Next thing you know, Yankees picked up the tab, and, you know, defensive. I don't know many players who are already established at a certain position. They get traded to another team and are willing to be relocated to another position. Because if he would have stood as a shortstop, you compare A-Rod to Jeter, Jeter has nothing on him. Okay, there's a show on MLB Network called Prime 9, and they list the top 10 shortstops in them since the baseball integration of 1947. And Jeter came in at number 4, and A-Rod came in at number 1. You know, so I mean, I personally think A-Rod it's a few factors. Peer pressure, because of he felt that he had to perform, and he wouldn't do so if he was not juicing. Okay, he was subconscious of himself, and he just set his some expectations of his ridiculously high. But yet, I don't know many people who would actually say, yes, I do collect Alex Rodriguez. Now, I just went over rookie cards of a lot of these scandalous players, and A-Rod himself, and I've actually have some stuff up here, okay, that are recent. At a PSA 9, okay, you've got his 94 SP at a PSA 9. The last sold auction was yesterday, actually, for $200. Okay, and there's 1,700 in population. So if you break down the population, there's literally 60 10s, 1,700 9s, ultimately totaling just under 19,000 cards of this particular variation that's been graded, and he's still getting graded to this day. You know, I mean, if I was to pull up 10s, you will see that he still has a high collectability rate. This is at a Gemmin 10. Nothing special about it. It's not like it's the Tiffany or anything like that, but it sold for $12,500 November 10th.
And it's also a popular card, obviously, too, with a lot of collectors that I think what I mentioned earlier, where they're finding these cards that they had in the 90s, and they're still sending them in, trying to get those 10s, whether they collect them and they want to sell them or whatever it is. It doesn't matter whether they're keeping them or not, because we're seeing the sales. So the cards are selling, right? And that's what I think is the important thing here. So despite it being a collector, a PC card, they're being brought back up, or boxes are being opened, or a case is being found at auction and someone opens them up to try to grade every one that they pull from a case. All those factors, they're still relative in the hobby, which is, you know, the main thing here.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's sad that none of the, I mentioned in the comments, none of these players that we're talking about, obviously with Bell and, them guys, but being more controversial, none of these guys that are the most popular, like the Bonds, the A-Rod, etc., none of them needed to do this in terms of getting to the Hall of Fame, to stay on topic. Now, for the reasons they did that, because they wanted to get that next contract to get the bigger dollars, because they saw one player get it and then the next player got it. So you're sitting there getting paid $3 or $4 million being the best player at the time, and your contract's about to end. And you're like, wait a minute, all these other guys are doing these crazy amounts of, this and that for stats, and then are making 10, 12, $15 million a year. I want that too. So that also drove a lot of the non-big players that didn't have that career to do steroids. The guys that were in the league flopping around, at a 220 hitter, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this guy hit 40 home runs. What happened here? So I think that is another part of this, where it really ruined other people's careers. And then other people, like these big names, it doesn't matter. They're still selling for great money, and they're still very, very collectible, and people just want the cards.
Yeah. I mean, for a lack of better terms, for the most part, that's all they really care about. I mean, they'll incorporate some newer players today because, like kind of like what Mike said, that's the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
But I mean, today's hobby it's I would say a large chunk of it happens to be kids half our age, and they're only going for the recent guys.
Yeah, Tom brought one up right there in the comments, like Brady Anderson hitting 51 homers. Yeah, that was like, wait, where did he come from? That's exactly the best. Yeah, that's the best example right there, Tom. Good comment.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, because Bell got injured, and that's what I mean by players that are really, really short. And we could talk about all those names like the Will Clark that are very, very fringe. And we're talking 1, maybe 2 years tops for guys like Mattingly. Of course, Mattingly, everyone knows about his injuries, and people compare it to Sandy Koufax. Well, it was only 10 years, but it was an amazing 10 years. Whereas all these players are like, it's only 10. I wish he had 12, but it was a lot of ups and downs, really good, and then really average, and then really awesome MVP year. So things like Mattingly always come up, and then the Dale Murphy, and then obviously 2 or 3 or 4 names like that then translate into, well, how did Harold Baines get in, but not this guy? And again, in time, that all can change with the Veterans Committee and things like that. But for now, for conversation's sake, I think that's a great point with the collectability. No matter if it's a lower value player like Albert Bell is, because he's not that expensive, then we could see players that are in the Hall of Fame that are also collectible that aren't very expensive. And you scratch your head and you say the polar opposite. You're like, well, how is this card this cheap? Look at Jim Thome, over 600 home runs. He never juicing. And this is something a little off topic, but my dad worked, when they had contracts where my dad worked, they would actually do stuff at the stadium. And Jim Thome could throw a ball up to himself from home plate and hit a home run, like we did in the backyard. Throw a ball to yourself and crank it out. That's how powerful he was. He's always been that big. Frank Thomas has always been that big. Everyone says he's been juicing. No, the guy's been huge since he was at Auburn. And it's like, he's not any smaller. And you can point all you want to these players, but their body mass isn't different. They didn't change and look like a new human. Now, if you see him today, you probably walk by him and go, I didn't even recognize him. You don't have that with these players. So I think that there's a weird disconnect between players that are actually in the Hall of Fame and not appreciated, and then this constant argument for players that are not in the Hall of Fame is just bigger because to me, it's more controversial. There's nothing really to talk about on a guy that, he got in, he's really good. Okay, well, what else do you want to talk about? And there's nothing there. So I think there's more substance when it comes to the what if factor with any conversation. So I think that's why this is a lot more debatable, and it's always a hot topic, and everyone's always got an opinion on it.
Right. I mean, I could see somebody from the 90s collecting, let's just say Barry Bonds. Okay. The moment he's retired, he didn't make the Hall of Fame. During that time, there's never been an analyst, a show, even the Hall of Fame team that's always covering it. They will always incorporate bonds and PEDs in the same sentence.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, what is the likelihood in somebody collecting a player of that caliber their whole collecting career? The moment they find out that this person tested positive for a substance, okay, he brushes it off, okay, and be like, you know what? He's still gonna get in the hall anyway. He doesn't make the hall in any shape or form. Do you think collectors just give up on that particular player and try to go find the next best thing? And that's for the chat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think collection goals are very, very important. I say this in my rambling thoughts all the time. Reevaluate 3 things: stay in budget, evaluate your collection often, and if money is thin, try to trade. You can have a lot of fun with those 3 things, or you can have a lot of fun in the hobby with those 3 things in mind every month. And when I say reevaluating your collection, what if we heard bad news and something came out and it became true about, Mickey Mantle? Because a lot of people will throw that argument out. Well, dead guy cardboard can't go up or can't go down. It's very safe, and it does go up, but it rarely does it go down, right? We're talking pre-COVID and then way past COVID, not because the COVID is an anomaly. I want to leave that out because those numbers are very inflated by other things that had nothing to do with the sport and collecting. So just a general collector, I pick whatever player it is, whether it's valuable or cheap. If that's the guy I'm collecting today, I think if you stay with that, reevaluating your collection, whether it's yearly, monthly, every 6 months, I prefer monthly because it keeps me in line with where I'm spending my money. Or, hey, I really want to attain this card. I'm going to stop with that part of my collection and save some more money and not buy something for a month or 2 to get a bigger card I really, really want. Or you're at a show and you see the card you really want. And you're like, I haven't seen this. I've been waiting for it. It's not in my budget, but I'm going to buy it now and then hold off for 2 months and not buy too many cards after this because I'm going to have to get this card. There's nothing wrong with all that, but I think reevaluating those collection goals is probably a good sum up of anything we throw at the chat, because you can get lost in this stuff and you can find yourself with like 15 different projects, whether it's a run of color that Infuego is doing for the platinum anniversary, which that's an older video, but it just looks amazing. And player runs, I think they look great. I love when they're spread out on a table. You see them over Instagram. A lot of people doing rainbows now and different things like that, or just vintage player runs, all the all-star cards and leader cards, along with the main rookie or the main base card of a set. However you collect, I think it's worth reevaluating and staying on top of, because you can really find yourself with 15 to 20 incomplete projects and never finishing something. So that's what I struggle with. Personally, I struggle with never finishing what I want, and then I have too many projects, and it's like, unless you have endless money, you have to scale back and refocus.
And this is why I don't like being a set collector, because that forces you down a rabbit hole that it is almost impossible to get out of.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that's a good argument, and that's no different than any type of run, whether it's a set run, a player run, and then some players getting more expensive. What do you do then? That's kind of a piggyback to your first comment. What if a player gets so good, and you collected Mike Trout in 2011, 12, and 13, where he was affordable from 15 on up until like 2 years ago? Even still today, he's not affordable. But from 15 on, you couldn't go back and buy those cards. And then the longer you waited, the more valuable they got.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a good point. Like, what do you do then if you start collecting a PC guy and you love him since college days or whatever, for whatever reason, and next thing you know, he's the next Mike Trout, then what? You just stop collecting? No, you just, I don't know.
Well, you got blame being thrown at you for this comment that's up.
First of all, he's absolutely insane. And the reason he says this, I blame Arnie for having me do the 2021 Topps Chrome Platinum Anniversary set. I'll be building this set my entire life. So last night we did a couple boxes of regular 2022 Platinum Anniversary, and I was saying how that set went from 700 cards to 500 cards. And I think, Mike, and you brought this up last week when we were talking about our favorite release. When I say favorite, I speak for everybody, because I don't know a soul that dislikes this release. Please, God, Topps, do not get rid of that release.
Don't get rid of it.
Agreed.
And that set is so hard to put together in the base set because it's 700 cards, and I've been building sets my whole life. It is the hardest set I've put together, other than the high numbers from the early 60s sets. But generally speaking, for a modern set build, there's no base set that is harder than that. And he's actually trying to do it with the prisms. He's absolutely insane. So good luck with that.
Agreed.
But please, Tops, do not mess with that release. We love it.
But at the end of the day, if I had to give advice to hobbyists that have those players that are no longer eligible, will never be eligible, will not get into the Hall of Fame as long as they're around, don't let little, well, I'm going to call it little because we're talking about collecting cardboard, okay? Favorite pastime. Don't let little things like that deter you from your collecting habits, okay?
Correct.
I mean, at one point when I first got affiliated with this group, I was a little nervous about bringing up that, I do collect A-Rod because I know that his name leaves a sour taste in 9 out of every 10 people's mouths. But, I mean, if they find out who you're collecting and roast you for that person, are you going to keep changing up who you collect?
Yeah, you're not going to be influenced by that. And another thing is too, it's much easier to be negative. It takes time to leave a thoughtful comment.
It really is.
And that's what it comes down to. So like, I don't like that guy. And I hear a lot of people, I hate the Yankees. And that's said around here a lot for Cleveland fans. I love watching Aaron Judge play. I love watching baseball. When I go to a game in the stadium, I'm going to the game because, I got to see this game. The Reds are in town. I want to go see Ellie play and not have to drive. So I go there and watch the game. So-and-so's pitching. I'm going to get tickets tonight. I got nothing going on. I'm going to go get some cheap seats and watch so-and-so pitch. I've never seen him pitch before.
Right.
I try not to let all this other noise, deter me from something that I've liked my whole life, which is collecting and then watching baseball and stuff like that. So I think that's a good comment there.
Definitely.
To not have outside influence change because someone's giving you a hard time. It's just why are people so critical of what other people collect? Why not just say, cool? I mentioned in the chat, when you go to a car show and the guy's got a beater, but it runs. That's cool, man. You want to look at it. You like cars. This guy's got a trophy car with mirrors underneath it, and it's up on 3 wheels, and one of the tires are taken off, and there's all these photos in an album of how they restored it over the last 10 years. And then you go to the next car that's original and untouched. It was found in a barn, and all they did was wash the car. Mm-hmm. It's all different types, but you're there because you appreciate cars. This is like the only hobby where it gets critical. I don't get it, but for me, I think it's great. I love seeing people collect a player run, or I had that card. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, let me go to my box. I may have some A-Rods that you may like. I could care less about these cards, but do you have this? No. All right, well, send me something I like. Here's a card that you like. That's what's fun about the hobby. And I think we need to get back to more of that. And not saying that it's not here in this group, but it's hard to spread that word and get that out there. So
agreed. And I mean, we just named 3, and I know the chat has thrown some names out there too, like Barry Bonds, okay, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, and I'm pretty sure there's some other ones. They've got some ridiculous resumes, but a lot of people tend to throw the fact that they were tied to PEDs by hearsay, by speculation, or by admission. Okay, I mean, if you are that guy that dreams of having the largest Roger Clemens collection that is out there, be proud of that shit. Honestly, there's no, I mean, what maybe one thing I've always said in growing up and all that, because it was told to me, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
True.
Yeah,
it is true.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, all that good stuff. There's there's something out there for whatever it is that you're interested in and that keeps you connected. We all want, as you get older, I think you find that a lot of stuff is BS. A lot of it was just noise and a waste of time. And you just want to go back and do things that remember better times, whatever that is in collecting. There's people that collect salt and pepper shakers. There's people that collect everything. You can name it. They're out there. So, collectors in general have certain personalities, and who doesn't like sharing common interests and talking about stuff you like. It's kind of like when people say, oh, you're just going to sit over here and do this and nerd out over this or nerd out over that. And you look at like Comic-Con and people dressing up and, you go, wow, that's a little weird. Then you go, no, they're just hanging out with friends that do the same thing.
Exactly.
Who gives a crap what the hell it is? Like, just, who cares, man? Just why is everything so damn critical? But it's not going to deter me from collecting, a certain player. I think what I mentioned before is like that guy. There's times where I have to start like pumping the brakes, going, okay, do I really need to pay this money for this card, or should I wait? And we're talking a base card that is worth $2, and it's below pop count because it's Kenny Lofton, and now I'm paying $230 for it. But then I go, okay, well, if I buy that card, I have to then make decisions afterwards where I can't buy these other cards because I have to have this. So that plays a lot into it when you're looking at an eBay listing. But at a card show, if it's something that you see and you have not seen and it's there, then I would say probably go for it, because you're going to be more mad that you didn't, because a month's going to go by and you're going to have a little extra money from your card budget. And you're like, I just wanted that card. I don't know why. What am I going to buy now? You kind of leave that sour taste in your mouth because you didn't take advantage of a situation. So that's the only time I would say to overspend, because I haven't overspent for a card. If it's the one I want and the one I've been saving for, and it's $100 card and it's in my face for $130, I'm okay with that. It's not something you do on every card. I don't recommend that, but there's plenty of us that I think have bought something and someone has said, "What'd you pay for that?" What does it matter? I don't care. I have it. I wanted it. Now I own it.
I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many times I broke the bank on one particular card.
I don't do that.
But and that goes to another point that I have. If you happen to be one of those guys that collects somebody who is not very fond of within the hobby or whatever, or even the sport, whatever the case may be, there's a couple of things you should keep in mind. One, that just means that the availability is open for you since you do actually collect them. Now, and also make sure you collect what your wallet can handle. Okay. I mean, if you have the ability to save up for a $1,000 rookie card of that particular player, because I mean, you have to have it, make a plan, save up for it. Or if you do have that, dispensable funds, by all means, do you. But I mean, they're like with me, there are certain cards that I did have on my radar that, I could have got right there on the spot, but then it would have been a detriment to other things that I had going on outside of the hobby that would have put me kind of between a rock and a hard place. So you save up for it. If it's still available, go ahead and pick it up. And if you don't, get the next best thing. If you're looking for that 9 because the 10s are almost impossible, shoot for an 8, maybe a 7.
That's right. 9s are fine. Yeah.
If it's something that you've build a sentimental bond with, the grades should not influence your collecting either.
Yeah, and with vintage it's a little different. But there's a parallel here. It's buy the best card you can afford, meaning the card that looks the best to you. I think I heard Chris Sewell say this, where he said that a vintage 7 that's got sharper corners and sharper color and edges, he would rather have that over a card that's a little bit more well-centered with touches on the corners or edges, and maybe it grades a 4 or 5. And again, that's just and that's what's great about the hobby. You can collect how you like to collect, and there's no wrong way. The only wrong way is when you start doing stuff that's out of budget. That's really it. Like you said, that's probably the only thing. And I think everybody says that too, with not just cards, or whether it's Infuego's 2 PC guys, and then people in the chat gave Infuego a bunch of crap, and then boom, J-Rod turns it up towards the end of the year. For some reason, his first couple of years, it's like he plays better later in the year. And if he starts out hot this year, then they're going to say, well, I told you so. And one person's going to be really right amongst other collectors. And then everyone else that told him differently is going to feel like, oh, yeah, it's actually a really good point. Because it's easy to go at a guy and say, oh, you collect this guy and he sucks.
That's a waste of money.
Okay. Well, guess what? I had a lot of fun doing it, and I don't care. We're going to be dead one day. Who cares? Like, just enjoy whatever it is you collect. There's guys that I've been PCing players that aren't on the Indians, and because I can only collect so many Indians. I have them, the modern stuff. I have it. I don't need any more. But I enjoy players that I collected during the Bowman years of 2020, 2021, and this player and that player. And okay, Lawler can fall flat on his face when he gets healthy and comes up to the league, or he could be the best. I don't know. But I'll have a decision to make whether I keep those cards, still collect them, or I sell some. So
the way I see it, eventually, kind of like you said, enjoy it while you're still around. For me, I'm going to pass this collection on to my daughter. Let her get all the grief.
I have nobody to pass my collection on to. What am I going to do?
Take it with you. Well, because Hans Kraus only has like 13 total cards?
A little bit more than that. And unfortunately, I think I have all of them, and none of them were purchased by myself. They were sent to me.
Hey, that's all hobby love. But
exactly.
That's, and then, a lot of the controversy, if you really look into it, and if you're really that big into the sport of baseball, to a certain degree, controversy kind of saved baseball during the 90s.
They knew they were doing it. The commissioner knew it was going on.
Yeah, and
baseball ratings were dropping.
And they'll elect managers that knew and that were part of those teams with those players, and they won't elect the players. That's the only thing. And I'm a purist myself. I love you did it. It's part of the rules. Fine. As much as I like Pete Rose and all the other stuff, it was part of the rules. You broke the rules. It is what it is. But you can't be that same person and go. Now, again, I don't agree with the management side, because the managers, there's no way you didn't know. Based on what we know now that has all come out, how are you letting those people in and not the players that they were? It's kind of like letting your kid in, not letting your kid in, but the dad that knew better gets rewarded for stupidity and for negligence of his kids. That's kind of that they're with them the whole life. I mean, the whole year. Right. It's like 75% of the year they're with these people all day, and they knew what was going on. And then some of these managers, and there's going to be new ones that will get in the future too, that are around those same players. And it's like, well, didn't he manage for so-and-so? How is he in? And it will never be brought up, because those guys always keep the peace with the writers. They give them the time, because the managers are always on the mic, But
here's the thing, though. Aside from managers, front office being aware of what was going on, okay, I think personally, if the scandal is putting more asses in seats to watch these players play, okay? Because look at the home run chase in '98 between McGwire and Sosa. In the beginning of the season, whenever those two players had their home games, it wasn't really all that big. But the moment they started going from not even halfway through the season, they're already at like 40, 50 home runs. Then they started being neck and neck. Because I know at one point, Ken Griffey was a part of that chase too, but he fell off.
Yeah.
And it was solely Mac and Sosa.
I think there was an injury or something that happened.
By the time we get to June, July, August, seats were sold out to watch these two guys just go at it. And you have commentators just basically covering both games. McGwire just went for number, 59. Here comes Sosa with number 57. And, it made the sport at that time that much more exciting, especially coming off of a strike.
Well, you had telecasts that were breaking away when McGwire came to bat just to see if he would hit a home run.
Yeah, you're right. From other programs. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. It's kind of like the popularity of things, when something becomes so popular that they broke away from, I think, the Knicks series to cover the OJ trial, the OJ chase, the car chase. They were breaking away, or maybe it was a trial. It was something to do with OJ. So it doesn't matter. how popular it is. That's how big it was back then. And a lot of people, again, I don't know if I agree with it because I just don't know enough about it. I was watching and I was collecting. I just don't know if when I hear the term saved baseball, I don't think baseball was dying. I don't think baseball was dead. People that like baseball then, hurting when in terms of ratings, and stuff like that. But the factors when I hear things are hurting like that, it's due to economy, not due to popularity of the sport. Because if you do a bad job marketing something, is that the fan's fault? The fan's a fan. I'm a fan of baseball cards. I was around and I scale back collecting at different times of the last so many years? Yeah. But I was always a fan. Am I still a fan of the game? And let's say if I lose my job, that means I can't go to Indians games anymore because I have to find a new job or other things take a back seat. So I think a lot of that stuff is never talked about because it's just quick to say it was so good and so fun. They saved something. I just think they made it better because when we hear things like changing the clock and speeding up the game, everyone that likes baseball goes to a baseball game to relax, hear a conversation, talk to the person they're with, enjoy the game, whatever you go for. We don't care about that extra 30 minutes or whatever you saved. We could care less. We are there. That's our night. We're going out, whether you have drinks, you don't drink, whatever it is.
30 minutes of more enjoyment.
That's your time with whoever you're with or at the stadium or the place you want to be. No one ever went to an amusement park and said, oh, the park's closing. If an amusement park was open until 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., do you think people would leave Cedar Point, one of the biggest in the world or the best in the world that's an hour from me? No, they just stay longer. Oh, it's adults only after this time. Cool. They do something different, or it's fun things are never, I've never heard of any fun event going, well, we need to make this shorter. So that's where I don't understand. I don't know how the money works with TV and baseball and contracts, but I do know that taking something 30 minutes or away for 30 minutes to me just.
I mean, I would agree with you about the strike in 95 that has nothing to do with baseball. It's more of a economic thing.
Yeah, that was contractual between the players that were not happy because the owners were taking too much of the slice and they were realizing the leverage they had.
But then there was two teams during that era that was actually, that caused the fan base to set aside the economy and still make it their business to go to that game just to see that player put one in the park.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And again, that's why certain things I can't really elaborate on because I don't know enough. I just look at it as I'm a fan and just play baseball. I'm a fan of cards. What do you got? 91 Fleer. Oh, it's the ugliest set. No, it's not. Getting that 91 Fleer yellow pack and seeing the black line on the side of the pack before you opened it, to see that Provision. Oh my God, I was a Provision. You had those cards. Those cards are amazing.
Yeah,
they're great. Try to get those in a PSA 10. You want to talk about high dollar 91 Fleers junk. I think it all has a place in history where it was an ugly time with the strike. We had Matt Williams, hitting an insane amount of home runs. He would have hit X. We have other players that would have done this and that. And we talk about that today. Like, oh, would he have hit 400? Would he have hit this many home runs? We don't know because of the strike. And then same thing you said. It put butts in the seats, and it was taken away from primetime TV cutaways to show some guys at bat in a regular season game, not even a playoff game. Is he going to hit another home run? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, again, whatever habits you have with what you're spending your hard-earned money on, or for those of you who have parents that give you an allowance, whatever you spend that money on as far as cardboard, if it suits your needs, if you find enjoyment in it, keep doing it. Okay?
Exactly.
So that was back then. Now let's go ahead and fast forward the clock. And what are some modern players that are skating on that controversial ice that, still have a high collectability?
Want to keep the same order?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, because mine will be pretty quick. So mine is going to be, let me just pull up my other browser here real quick. Okay, there it is. So mine for me, again, homer pick. who I do collect, and it's not outside of a couple big cards, rare numbered rookies and things like that with high value, is going to be Clase. Emmanuel Clase for Cleveland. I believe came over in the trade when we got rid of Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber went over to Texas, and for the first year, which maybe some people don't know, he didn't pitch for a whole year due to PEDs. So Clase, well, I don't know if you want to call it juicing. It's just did not play in 2020. He has cards in the 2020 sets. But yeah, so ever since he's been back though, 2.8, 0.64. And then what's the go down a little bit there to the last chart you just had up. Yeah. The last year, his best year, the 4.5. So, best closer in the American League, one save shy of best in all of baseball last year. So all-star every single year since he's been fully in the league. And
minus 21.
Minus
so 21.
Cy Young Award, he had 3 votes. MVP had 11 votes, and then 3 straight years of all-stars. So here's a guy that, again, when I talk about value, regardless of what it is and collectability, I'm not shying away. And I will be honest here, a lot of it has to do with because his cards are affordable. But if this was somebody bigger, like a big name player that's not on steroids, that's been in the league for like 3 years, let's say it was a Bobby Witt. I was a huge Bobby Witt fan. This would change drastically with what I'm saying. But it's easier for me to say this because his cards are not super expensive outside of those rare numbered parallels that are just tough because nobody collected him. So those cards are either somewhere in packs still in boxes that haven't been opened or just haven't been graded. So for me, I like it as a Cleveland fan because it's cheaper to obtain. But I'm going to go with Clase, a full year suspension in 2020 due to PEDs. Mm-hmm. So that'll do it for me. And I don't care how many he wins and how many saves he has. And if he's up there with Mariano Rivera in the next 15 years, I don't think he'll ever get in the Hall of Fame. You missed an entire year of baseball, which says a lot. And I know how they vote.
Well, of all the times to receive that suspension, he picked it during the pandemic, where there was only like 60 games. So
yeah, but it was from that's good point. But the suspension was for the entirety of the season,
right?
So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Clase. He's a very bad man.
Yep. I mean, right now, his current status is he signed through 26 at 5 years, $20 million a year.
Yep. With an option on a 2-year back end.
Yep. So, I mean, hopefully he does something where he's even considered for Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, even that though, here's another thing too, because Cleveland is not known to sign big players, especially pitchers, because we find pitchers between Cleveland and the Tampa Bay Rays, there's no 2 teams that do better development with players for pitching. Now, other positions, that's a whole other topic. But for pitching, Cleveland will find the guy that's on the back end of his career. Cleveland will find a guy that has been struggling in the minors for 5 to 7 years, and they will rebirth them. And then they will also trade most players with issues, and they have never done well after they left, other than Cliff Lee and CC Sabathia.
I was just about to bring that up. You mentioned that Cleveland does not sign quality pitchers.
This generation that I'm talking about now, I bring those other 2 up because that was a different GM. But the GM now is these guys. Those guys do great with very little money. And we know they don't have a lot of money, and they do a great job. But player development's been really good in terms of pitching. So I don't see him staying past the next 3-4 years. They'll trade him and get something for him before he does get to that player option. That's my guess. Mm-hmm. Unless he falls off and, he's, a mid-range guy that he could stay because it'll be cheap to pay him. So that could be something. But I have a feeling if he continues to pitch like this over the next 1 to 2 years, he's gone.
Okay, so Chuck wrote, if Clase stays clean for the rest of his career, he thinks that he does have a shot at the Hall because he did that at the beginning of his career. So if he has a long career and is clean, he could possibly make it.
I think I brought this up last time. It's a great comment because I think this piggybacks off of something we talked about a few weeks ago. I said I'll leave it at that until Mike goes. Yeah, let's chat about that later. Good comment though. We'll piggyback. We'll go back on that comment there, Chuck, in about 10 minutes. But that wraps it up for me with Class A. I'm going to go Class A because I know more about that player because I'm a Cleveland homer. So that's my guy.
Awesome. What about you, Mike? Who's your guy today?
Well, it's not a Phillies player. Yeah, I'm kind of like all over the place here. Modern player is going to be Fernando Tatis Jr. I'll never forget. I was watching in Strikers Breaks, and somebody put in the chat that Fernando Tatis broke his arm or wrist in a motorcycle accident. And Striker goes, no, don't go posting that stuff here. And then other people started chiming in, and Striker's face went completely white because he's got like so many Fernando Tatis cards.
He was a super collector.
Yeah. He was a super collector. Then my next thought was after he got stung by the apparently medication for ringworm. Right. He was suspended for PEDs, which he did when he was not playing. My next thought went to Matt Hollis, who has the world's largest Fernando Tatis collection. And I was like, my heart went out to like both of these guys because they invested so much time and money collecting cards or having cards sent to them or whatever and building these collections. That was like a big wake-up call. It's like, yeah, I'm not investing everything into one player ever. And I never have, so I kind of spread it out all over the place. So now that I'm looking at it, Tatis has been back for 2 years, and he's put up 2 good years. I mean, not Hall of Fame years. 2023 was better than 2024. He missed a few games in 2024. But he's a player where the cards, when he came out in 2019, it was all about, let's get Series 2. You got the Tatis card in there. You got the Acuna card, and everybody was chasing those cards, and the prices went through the roof. And I know that you have the graphic. We were looking at it earlier.
These are all PSA 9s, mind you.
Okay, so these are all PSA 9s. Well, just a couple of days ago, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm wondering what those PSA 10 Tatis cards are going for. His rookie card out of Series 2. And I'm looking on eBay, and I'm seeing, okay, so they're around, $20, $30, stuff like that. So let me see if there's any buy it nows out there. Well, there was a buy it now or best offer. So it was $20. So I said, all right, I'm going to throw $14 out. If he comes back at 17, I'm going to jump on it. He comes back with $16.50. So I got my first Fernando Tatis PSA 10 for $16.50 plus shipping, throw another $5 on there for shipping. But that's a card that I couldn't touch in 2020, 2021 before all this stuff happened. And now all of a sudden, these cards are becoming affordable. So now I have my Tatis Jr. And I honestly think his cards are going to go up because last year with him in San Diego, it was quiet, very quiet. They had a good team. They have a real good team. They brought in a lot of, younger players, and they actually formed a team, which I think was better than the previous year when they went to the playoffs. And, I think that he's going to learn. I think he learned a valuable lesson. Manny Machado was kind of like that when he was younger. Now, Manny Machado, believe it or not, has actually become a leader of that team, which I never thought would happen. So maybe with guidance from him and say, hey, you know what, these kids come from, countries where,
hopefully broken homes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's so much broken homes, but, the economy.
Poverty level is pretty high.
Yeah. Poverty level's high. And they come to they start playing baseball at a young age, and that's their way out. They get out, and then they have this money, more money than you and I will ever have in our lifetime, and they get that in 1 year.
Living the American dream.
Yeah, it's the American dream, and they feel like they're invincible. Well, guess what? In reality, everybody's built the same. I mean, we all have the same, the same bodies pretty much. Anything can happen, bones break and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think he came down to reality, and I think his collectability is going to go up. So everybody that was spending all that money on Tatis rookie cards back in 2020, 2021, just hold, don't sell, don't panic sell. There's a lot of panic sellers out there. And if you're looking for those cards, there's a lot of good cards out there at very low prices. The way I look at it, it's, if I'm going to get a card slabbed, if I have a card and it's going to cost me $4 for the card, and then I pay for grading, it's going to cost me, a total of $20, $16 for grading or whatever. And you may get a 10, you may get a 9, who knows? But just to go out and buy a PSA 10 for $16.50 of Tatis, yeah. Definitely worth it. And there's other cards that I look at. I missed out. There's this one player that I'm looking for, and I'm not spending more than $10 on it, with shipping, for a PSA 10. And you can believe me, there are players that you can get for less than $10, and you'd be surprised at how many you can find on eBay. And I had 7 offers. I had offers in on 7 cards, and I finally got one for $9.50, and I was more than happy with it. I'm not going to let you know my secret, but if you,
well, I think that's a collection discipline. That's the reevaluating your collection and how you collect and how you acquire cards and your budgets, and which always changes every week and month. I think that's great.
If you don't need it now, just take your time. Take your time. It'll fall into your lap, and stay away from everything ending on a Sunday. Look for those people that are going to end on a Saturday or a Friday or a Thursday. There's not many people looking at those cards, and that's where you can get really good cards for your collection at that time.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, he's
another one. Sellers. Yeah,
he Tatis happens to be another one. He's just a young kid, full of life, energy. Makes mistakes, clearly, but I mean, he came in 19, and he took the sport by storm up until the news broke that he tried to use some unauthorized cream to cure a ringworm, and the next day, you saw it on the market. His stuff started tanking.
It plummeted.
Everybody was quick to go ahead and get rid of him, but now that they see that when he came back, and he's coming back, not to where he was in 21, but he's making strides towards it. You slowly started seeing the collecting habits of his cards slowly going on the rise. So, I mean, is this going to be somebody where 10, 15 years later, he decides to hang it up, he gets considered for the Hall? Is he going to get in? Only time will tell.
Oh, there's a lot of things to consider. I mean,
then the writers will probably be a lot younger. They won't focus on the 90s era, hopefully.
Yeah, but that's why I didn't say anything to the research and see that he, like when we were having our chat, me, you, and Arnie on Wednesday, are they going to look and say, hey, well, he took his steroids when he wasn't playing.
Yep, he took it to get healthy.
Steroids to get back to being to playing. It's not like he was in the middle of a season putting up these incredible numbers, got tested, and then got suspended for 80 games.
Yeah,
it was
my
health off the field while he was injured.
And I'm going to take a page out of Arnie's book. One exception to the PED rule that should be considered: during the off season, you can do whatever it takes to get you back to or close to 100%, but you have to give yourself a 30-day buffer before you get tested so you don't pop positive.
Yeah. And obviously those, I'm not a doctor. I don't know any about this stuff, but some things would have to be, hey, he's going to take this and it's a topical and it's going to be in this area because of this injury or that injury so they can heal faster. And I don't see why owners or the Players Association would not want that. These guys are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to have these facilities, billionaire owners. It's like saying, I have a product here that can fix this Ferrari quicker, but no, you have to go ahead and you can't use the power tool on that. You have to do all that by hand. You can't sand that. Everything has to be done by hand and no tools, just your bare hands.
Yep.
So it's like, come on, guys. That's where I cut off. I forgot who had that comment. I think it was in the chat. Someone made a comment about Class A doing the PEDs, getting caught, suspended, not allowed to play baseball. When you're injured, it was away from baseball. What did he say? What was he doing? Riding a motorcycle? He fell. What did he do? Whatever he did something away from baseball.
Crashed on a motorcycle, broke his wrist.
Yeah. So he got injured. I'm a believer, as a purist as I am, I'm a believer of whether it's a 90-day period or 60-day period, whatever the length of your injury is, 2/3 of your injury time, let's just say 2/3, you can take this to get a faster rehab. If there's stuff out there that works, but it's banned to take during the season for performance and while you're playing the game, okay, well, you can't take it while you're playing the game. Now, does that mean you could take it during the offseason? No, it's only for injured players.
Right.
When you're injured and you're set up for rehab, now this list gets smaller of things you cannot take, but all those other things that were on this list of the full-time ban now are available for those injured players, like a special list. And then we're not talking about some, witchcraft potion. We're talking about stuff that's legit medicine that is just not
right
during, player performance time. So how that would look, how someone would present that to them, I don't know. But yeah, if I had to compare, the reason I didn't mention it because I don't want to ruin Mike's, player that he picked.
No.
I just think it's different because he was using those to enhance his performance on the field versus a guy that got injured and then, hey, how do I get back quick enough? And listen, we have no idea what was said behind closed doors. That owner could have met with him and said, look, we gave you all this money. You're going to take this. We need you back on the field. We paid you. It's all about money. It's big business. We don't know. We can speculate, but no one's around that guy with that kind of money and his dad being around baseball. There's photos of him being around baseball since he was a kid. You're telling me that he's the only one that knew about that? I don't buy it. Like him and one guy that took it, or hey, take this, and nothing was said. I don't buy it.
So what do you think about this then? We all know that the teams pay top dollar to have the best medical professionals monitor their players' overall physical health and all that other good stuff. Would it make sense for the commissioner to go ahead and establish a medical board, and determine they relook at this banned substance list and get the opinions of these medical professionals and say, yes, this will expedite the healing process for Tommy John, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, it also does prove to enhance performance, but if this person is going to be out for the year because of Tommy John, this person should, whoever's taking said banned substance should go ahead and start weaning themselves off of it 90 days, 60 or 30 days prior to being placed back on the active roster so that when they do test, it's not going to reflect as such.
Yeah, that's a good, and I think there's another comment in here where it says problem, where do you draw the line? I'm sure they all have doctors who would be happy to write the problem you have. Right. That would be something that would be, that's no different than a gaming commission for Las Vegas. I'm just trying to draw a parallel to something like, Vegas has all these hotels and casinos. They have an outside that does all of them, right? The gaming commission checks on those machines to make sure they're calibrated, whatever it is. Same thing with the MLB. You would have one set of doctors. Like, think about this. When you go get your surgery, what do you think? Just because it's Bieber and, Spencer Strider, you think just because they're, can't take those, they don't get pain meds. Those guys are all hopped up on pain meds after their surgery. Everybody is, but you have them for 30 days, then you do rehab, then you get a lower dose so you can start working out and not have the pain while you're fixing those muscles, whatever it is. And when I hurt my shoulder, same thing. Oh, you have to take these now for pain, but then I want you to take them again when you start doing your physical therapy, because everything's going to start hurting again and you're going to start rehabbing. So that's the same thing here. It's like you could take them now while you're getting better, but on the playing field you can't go popping no pain pills just because you want to take one today. So what's so different? What's different about anything else that's going to make them better?
So to reply to your comment there, Jeff, yeah, I mean, the only way to do it is to have separate doctors make the call, because if the Yankees have certain doctors on their payroll, they're basically going to be paid to do or say whatever it takes
it would have to
make the team win. That's why, as a commissioner, they go ahead and establish whether it be a 3-man or a 5-man medical professional panel to provide that second guess to what the team doctors are actually stating on behalf of the team for that player.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's all valid point. It's good conversation, because I don't see the negativity behind it. I only see it as a positive right now. Maybe I'm not looking at everything, and someone else will jump in and maybe something will come up down the road. But I see it as a positive. And I don't see it being malicious. No one's trying to screw someone over. No one's trying to get over on somebody so they can hit more home runs or be better at this. Or it's longevity of a career. And what's wrong with that? Like, these guys already paid another contract. Like, I don't see the drawback to any of this. And then think about this too. Players also, to look at the devil's advocate here, the other side of the coin is players will also go get alternative opinions. You hear about this person blew out his knee, or Aaron Rodgers on the first play last year, whatever it was, got sacked and hurt his leg or knee or whatever it was. There's times where you just hear, oh, he's also getting a second and third opinion from his own doctors, because they have their medical staff with the team, and then they go out and get their own opinion too, because these are the highest of highest, profile athletes. So I think that goes hand in hand here. I think it all kind of makes sense, but I'm sure someone will come up with something someday to say why it won't happen, or who knows. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, and we've seen it with a lot of players, and some of these players, rightfully so, I can see and understand why they just do a massive bonfire with their collectability. Look at Wander Franco.
Yeah,
I think
there's a lot of pressure on Tatis.
He's the biggest one.
So Tatis is active. Wander's out. It's a known. It was like, peel the Band-Aid, take a look at it. All right, we'll put the Band-Aid back on. And then a couple weeks later, it's like, nope, rip that thing off. It's a big open wound. It needs surgery, and we're not doing surgery. It's done. It's done. But Tatis, he has to perform now. He has to play to that level now, and he has to play hard and harder and try. And he if he plays the way he did this past year, I think he's got a Gold Glove out there. He's another guy that's been out there almost flawless on defense, and he's great. That's a guy that, like you said, Mike, I think for someone like me that's such a purist about the rules and the way the games is, and I don't like them changing things, I think that he still has a chance, because he came it was caught. It's not like he came back and then played 2 years and then got caught.
Right.
He got caught right after he came back. It was a short window. You're suspended. Yeah. Because people were still excited about the hobby. He came back, he was playing. And I don't know, I could be way wrong here, but I thought it was maybe like a dozen games or something like that. Didn't he play? If we could pull those stats up, I believe he played before he got suspended. He played a short period.
You talking about Tatis?
Well, 2022, he did not play at all.
Well, that was a suspension. But
that was the injury and the suspension.
The year before that, he had a stellar year. Because
Yes, that was the
if
big
I'm not
year, the breakout
mistaken,
year.
he led the year in home runs.
Yeah, there it is. B said 12 games. So yeah, there was a period of time where he was playing in 22. Where's the games played? 130. Yeah, so in 22 he did play and was suspended, and that probably carried over into if you look at the games played, 141 and 23, it probably carried over a couple games there for that full 162.
Because he actually came back on International Weed Day, which is April 20th in 23.
Yeah, so it looks like he played about a dozen games, and then that carried over into the next 23 season. That's probably what happened. Yeah, he said about 12 games. So yeah, I think again with his situation, and we're talking if he has another, what would he do in 23? A 5.5 WAR season, a 2.6. Let's see what his stats are. He still hit 25 and 21 the last 2 years, 148 and 110 in the hits, but there was also 40 less games in 2024 here. So yeah, and it's going to be hard to say what happens if he does this for the next 10 years. Does he have a shot at the Hall of Fame? Sure, but then they're always going to look back at that questionable year.
They'll hold this carrot over his head.
Yeah, because look at the year he had before it, 42. He led the league in home runs at 42, and 31 doubles, 42 home runs, 130 games. So that's 30 some less games, and he did all that in 130 games. It's pretty impressive. So
And if you look at it, he went from 17 home runs. Well, okay, he only played. We can't look at 2020. All right, and you can't really look at 2019 because he only played 84 games. So 42 home runs. So he got hurt on the motorcycle and then got suspended for PEDs.
Correct.
Do you think in 2021 he may have been doing PEDs?
Yeah. That was his breakout year, but also if you factor in the first year in 2019, he also had he also only played half the season, but he had 22 home runs and only an 84 game sample. So half a season. That's if you were to double it. I know that's not really the easiest.
And I know that they randomly test all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of those things
he's been tested before many times, which most players are. If he was tested beforehand and he was always clean, then I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm even more convinced because he took that to get better, which again, I go back to the conspiracy theory stuff. Like we're talking about getting a ton of money too. The owner could have said, hey, look, we're going to get you this. We got to get you back on the field ASAP. We need you this year. We just invested a lot of money in all this other stuff. We got Soto coming, whatever it is in their mind that they had, and, for future plans of another player, these are all speculation things. But I think it'll look better if he was tested, was never had any juice pre and then post suspension and pre-suspension. If there's documents of them being tested, then I'm fine with him. And I'm buying and I'm collecting. Or if I pull a good card, I'm not trading it. Then yeah.
Right. So basically, how I'm looking at it in my mind, excluding 2020, okay. He broke out with 22 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
You go from 22, add 20, another 20 in 21,
and 40 and almost 50 more games.
And almost 50 more games.
He had 17 with 60 games. So if you take 60 and add another 100 games out of that 17, that's right in line. So those 3 years were all pretty much right in line. So he had a great 19, 20, and 21. And keep in mind, his collectability was just through the roof then.
Oh, yeah. It was
unreal.
Product,
at one point, he was the face of MLB up until 2022.
He was everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, I would speculate that the vast majority of baseball fans and those that are affiliated with the sport would assume PEDs are involved. If we would have went from 42 to like 49, then 51 in 23, and then 57 in 24. Mm-hmm. If you see that steady increase in his numbers and his numbers of games played, oh yeah, absolutely. We need to test this guy every day, twice on Sunday.
Yeah. And the thing is, that may be the case, and that may be great for collectors that did invest a lot of money, whether it's someone like me, you, and Stryker, and all these other people that loved, the Wander collectors, everybody. I mean, we all are trying to, pick the right guy to collect that they enjoy watching play, whether it's a home guy or for whatever reason you want to collect a guy. Doesn't matter. So I think it's nice to see that there could be some underlying factors that make those people, because these cards have gone back up. Have all the cards gone back up? No, but we did see a little bit of a bump with Tatis and kind of coming back, and good for those that still hung on to them and still have some cards. And then it's an opportunity to buy, like Mike said. It's an opportunity for people that always wanted one. I think
couldn't get it. Yeah,
for plus 200 for his 200 something for a Chrome 10, and now it's cheaper. So good for them. Maybe you can acquire one a little bit cheaper and feel good about yourself. So
now, what about those players who didn't learn their lesson the first time? What are your thoughts on that?
Straight to jail. I don't know, man. No, not for me.
No. Well, there you go.
No.
Yeah.
So this case, in I think it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, he was suspended 80 games.
I wish they would take that off. If they're suspended for that, do not allow, even if they have the numbers, you're not allowed to be on the ballot, because I think it's taking up space and votes for people when these guys get 2 votes, 4 votes, 6 votes, and then you have a fringe guy that's a few votes short, and then you have a vote like this. When you look at something, you go, why didn't he get in? Oh, well, that's because these other big players were on. And then you look at some and you go, wait a minute. So some of the writers voted for this guy?
Yeah, taking away votes.
And taking away votes for guys that were clean and are fringe Hall of Famers. That's my only argument. And that's not a biased take. That's just the general Hall of Fame just needs to be tweaked with that. That one is specifically because you are taking it away from someone that we all know. If you haven't voted the best players in baseball that have PEDs in, why are you putting a guy like him on the ballot? Now, all he's doing is taking up votes in space. Just get him off of there. So it's not going to happen. The whole world knows it's going to happen. So now you have your guy on there, and he's like, here's 6 votes, 3 votes, 9 votes, 11 votes. All those votes could have went to another player. So
yeah, agreed.
Good topic there. That's interesting.
Yep, because
I never thought of that.
As a matter of fact, since he retired in 22, you got to wait the 5 years, right? So that should put him at eligibility for what,
27
or the 2028 class?
Yeah,
27.
Because I'm actually looking up the future eligibles
I don't know what
now.
It does have the dates there, or the years. That's cool. There we go.
And he's not even on here at all.
Does it go to 28? See if it goes to 28.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Yes, let's see if it's on there.
Pujols is on there.
Roddy is on there. Strasburg. Yeah, those guys are all,
29. Miggy, Cruz, and 30.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so he's not even on there. And I wonder if there's something that's changed. I don't follow the Hall of Fame as much. It'd be nice if we had someone in the chat that could chime in, or maybe we'll learn about it. But yeah, I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, so I don't really have a player that falls into that boat, because I was going to share my same thoughts and opinions with Mike on Tatis, because that's who I was going to bring up. But yeah, it's great. It's crazy how, a little, I'm not even going to call it little, a obstacle in a player's career that could have been avoided or prevented will determine the outcome once they officially hang it up. And then with that happening, it's kind of like the domino effect. Somebody has got caught up in the whole PED scandal, or let's just say with the Wander scandal. The league turns their back on these players. So do the hobbyists. What about those individuals who were collecting these guys? Every card that came out with that picture of that player in it, they had a copy of, and they've invested some serious money. Like, I do remember at one point somebody literally sold a superfractor of Wander Franco for a fraction of what he could have got for.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll never forget when Wander's rookies came out in flagship, and I was watching. I know it was probably Striker or something like that, and somebody posted, "Yeah, I just spent $40 on a Wander Franco rookie card, and it just came out, and people were just breaking it and putting it up, and it was." And Striker goes, "Well, if that's what you want to pay for it, at least you got your Wander, But it's like."
Yeah, it goes back to the being critical of people and what they spend their money on. Why are we so focused on what other people spend money on?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is why would you? Yeah, like what are you thinking? Okay, yeah, Series 1 is like the most overproduced product out there. Why don't you just wait? Why do you have to have it right away?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're definitely an impatient society. I mean, you drive down the road, you got 40 fast food places and all these options. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic, but you can definitely, compare a lot of that. The impatientness, the shorter attention span of a lot of this stuff, and the have to have now.
Yeah.
The impulse buying. I mean, all that's a factor. That's why I think I said every 30 days, just kind of, hey, I set these collection goals in January. Now let's reset. I'm still loving this set. I'm still loving this set. Well, you know what? This went up in price, and I can sell this, and I can have all this other stuff and these other 4 projects I could probably obtain for free because this guy did so well. I got lucky. I happen to be a Mike Trout collector. I collect other baseball cards. I don't live in LA. I don't care about Mike Trout. I just have a lot of this product back in 2011, and I've hung on to it, and he's at this time where I want to sell. Good for you. You made a bunch of money. Like right now, Ohtani's never been hotter. Right. Paul Skeen's never been hotter. My opinion is you sell those 2 guys. I don't own anything other than my base cards and sets. I own nothing for either of those guys. I've sold it all because I just felt it was the right move for me. That's it. That's all I need to know is that I'm going to take that money, but I'm going to, of course, blow it on other cards that I could be wrong about. But it allows me to buy other things in my collection goals and, collection journey, they call it. That's why I think it's so important to just kind of check every month and see where you're at with your collection goals. And if money's a problem, try trading with people. We all have cards. Sort your cards, organize whatever it is. You could be very active in the hobby with very little money if for whatever reason you need to scale back a little bit or spend less. Trading is probably my number one go-to. Yes, I'm pumping trading again, but I love that part of the hobby because we all have cards we could be perfectly fine not owning, and then that's currency in the card market. That is good as cash, especially with another trade partner that's accepting cards as well with no money being exchanged. I think it's key. The one from Flagship, Wander first PSA 10 base one for over 200, and then this is one for 1,000. Actually, the one from Flagship.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like Tom said earlier, I think Tom mentioned he paid 220, 280, 260.
He paid 280 for a rookie.
Yeah, and again, okay, we've all been there. I mean, it sucks, right? We've all been there. But the good thing is he can laugh about it now and joke about it. But the card's not dead. I mean, the guy's still playing. He's still on a great path to having a great career, and see what happens. Those and there's also cards that we've bought and we've collected and should have sold and went back down.
Right.
And there's a lot of cards I just say I'm just going to keep it. I'm fine with it. Whether it goes up or down, I'm just going to keep it. And nothing wrong with that either.
Touche. So here's another player that kind of I question also. And I don't know at the time how big of a collectability market this player had, but I mean his name was thrown around there in the Peds
Mitchell Report. Is that what it's called?
No, not even that. Ryan Braun.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, he actually was. It actually came out afterwards. I think it was there. I saw a recent story with that. His friend is Aaron Rodgers, the old Packers quarterback, whatever, for the Jets now.
Yep.
That he guaranteed his salary, which was like $10.5 million. If you look up Aaron Rodgers, $10.5 million guarantee, you could find this story where Ryan Braun said he didn't do steroids, and I guess it later came out after the fact where he was going to get suspended, then he didn't, and then they ended up finding out that they suspended him, and he was in fact doing
These
steroids.
were his salary. This was his salary from 08 until 21.
Yeah, he was
And basically
part of the hobby.
How the media is wording it was Ryan Braun voluntarily retired from baseball. The question is, did he do it? Did he voluntarily retire willingly, or was it highly advisable for him to go ahead and go out on his own terms?
I'd have to say highly advisable.
Yeah, you're talking big money there. When that kind of money's in the room, that's way out of my league to even wrap my head around what could have been said. That takes me down different rabbit holes, basically. I don't know.
This was another player that had potential. I mean, during his season, his career, he was at a 47 WAR, 1,900 hits, 350 home runs, 296 batting average. I mean,
Where was the suspension at? What year was that?
2013 was the suspension.
Yeah, and how many years after
during
that
that
put up
time?
The numbers?
During that time, he only played 61 games.
Okay, so pull up the chart that has the full season. There you go, appearances. So 2013 was the suspension, 61 games. Okay, after that, can we see his stats just for those years from 14 on to retirement?
And go back up
just to see, just compare him to the old.
Okay, so 14 is right here.
Okay, so obviously with him.
Well, wait a minute. Those aren't standard numbers. Right here. Here we go.
Go all the way back up.
Go all the way back up. There we go. Yep.
There you go. No, keep
going. A little more.
That's the advanced.
Nope. Too advanced. There we go.
Standard.
All right, so 14. 1.2 WAR, 135 games, 141 hits, 19 home runs, 266, 453 slugging.
Yeah, he had good numbers before and after.
What was that?
He had pretty good numbers before and after. So after the suspension, we're talking 100 plus, at least 100 plus games. I think his lowest year, other than his year that he stopped playing, was 104 games, and the highest being 144. So in 2014, his home run was 19, 25, 30, 17, 20, and 22 counts. So now you look before the PEDs. His home run in 2007 was rookie year.
34.
His games played was at least his lowest games played was 113 and his highest being 158. He hit 34, 37, 32, 25, 40, or 33, and then the league leading 41. So after that, it looks like everything kind of got cut by about a third for his home runs. I didn't look at the other stats, but by about a third. So he was very productive as a player.
Right.
Now, had you taken those numbers in 2007 and never done steroids, let's just say that 34 turned into 26, 37 turned into, 25, 25, 18, 25. And then that career year at 41, maybe he hit 30. And then after that, the suspension. And then 19, 25. He's still at almost 300 home runs and still playing. So he was good. Did he need to do the steroids? Probably not.
No.
One of those guys that had a great career, fringe Hall of Fame, maybe didn't need to do it. But again, we don't. What you have to find out in here, and this has always been my question: why do they do it? Okay, for them personally, they're never going to say it. But then you start to look at the years they had the PEDs, then the year that they were up for a contract, and they watch all these other players making a set amount of money that they knew were doing steroids. That was the 90s argument for a lot of these guys. But we're talking about an era that not a ton of people were suspended for PEDs during this era.
Right.
No.
So whatever the reason was, he did it. I don't know if he was injured somewhere in there. If you look at the game count, he looks to have a healthy career for the last 15 years here, from 7 down to 20.
And then his average with the PEDs, he was averaging 32 home runs in a full season if he played 162.
Yeah. So even with that, let's say he averages 20 plus, 20 to 25. That's still a good career. I don't know. Yeah, his averages RBIs is 108. He could have had 22 homers and 80 RBIs season for 17. How many years is that? 13 straight years. And he still would have been playing. But
Right.
like you said, early retirement, 36, 37, maybe had another year or two. Yeah, I don't know. Is there any fans in here that collected or followed him in the chat? Oh, the MVP got taken away. I'm not sure. That was the year he hit the most.
That's what I'm trying to look up now.
Yeah. Interesting, Tom. Yeah, I don't know. I never collected him, so.
Admission and apology. Yep, got that. I'm not seeing anything that states that his MVP was taken away. That would have been huge. That would have been the first time a player had their award rescinded.
Is he on the ballot for the Hall of Fame? It would be what, 2026?
Go back to that list. Let's see if he's on there.
I didn't notice his name on there.
Yep, there you go. First one.
Oh, there he is. Never mind.
Yeah.
And what do they have on here? 6-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, 2011 MVP, played 14 seasons. Oh, so they're only marking him as with having one.
Huh.
Does that mean that they did take one away?
Interesting.
It was the year that he got suspended, or the prior year that he got suspended. He had the 42 home runs. That probably would have been the year, right? 2010. Tom, was that 2010? You have to go back to that player list.
So 2011, they have him listed as the MVP in 2011, right there. It states. But what do they have on Baseball Reference?
As far as what? His resume?
As far as MVPs.
One.
Oh, 2011. Okay.
So go back down to the first list there. The first list of stats, the standard. Yeah, stop there. 108. So 2012, and then the suspension came after that. So 2012 was his highest runs, highest home total,
runs, OPS.
highest OPS, highest what's this other one? Total bases. Okay. Yeah, so that was the year reflective of it. So 2000. So would he have won back to back in 11 and 12?
He might have.
Possibly.
Just Google back-to-back MVP winners.
Well, who won the MVP in 2012?
Well, I just want to see if there's any, because it would have been back-to-back 11 and 12. I want to see if there's any, just in general, back-to-back who have won it. I mean, I know Tani and stuff like that, but previous winners. The list can't be long.
And Fuego, why does all your top Google searches end in the word Rodriguez?
Yes. Okay, so you got Ohtani, you got Miggy.
Okay, that's the most recent. Yep.
Bonds.
Yeah.
Frank Thomas.
So if he did win it twice and they took it away, but it still says he has the 11 one. I don't know if he's ever won two. I don't know. But Tom, did he only have the one? I'm not sure.
If who?
If he only had that one in 2011, and it's still showing
all that they have listed.
Yeah. Well, who won it? Look,
he came in second in 2012. Who won it in 2012?
Unless they changed it to second and gave it away.
2012 was Posey. Okay, so Chuck says 2012 was
Buster Posey.
Okay, so maybe not. I wonder how close that was. That would have been interesting.
Not close.
Not close at all. I mean, he had a higher WAR and a higher batting average. That's about it.
And points aren't bad, but the first place votes, it was 27-3.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
That'll sink it right there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. The more you know.
It's going to be interesting.
Yep. I mean, you got some pretty decent names on here. I mean, hell, Bond won back-to-back twice.
Yeah, Dale Murphy's on there too. That's another argument. That's another great. And Murphy switched positions too. Murphy was a
Joe
catcher.
Morgan, Roger Maris, Ernie Banks, Mickey, Yogi, Hal, and
Jimmy Fox. Nice. That's pretty cool. The list isn't long for as many years as we've seen baseball, or baseball's been around, I should say. Did not have his MVP or taken away. Hubbard in 2003. Matt Kemp, the runner-up in 2000.
So it's awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very cool. Learn something new every day.
Yep. So overall, I mean, despite, I guess the moral of the story is if you dove into a player and you're collecting him like it's nobody's business, they do something that tarnishes their career a little bit, or does some serious damage to the point where all they're doing is just collecting a paycheck. They're not going to be remembered for anything other than that tarnish incident that occurred. Don't let any other of your peers that collect, deflect from who you collect and why you collect them.
True.
For the most part.
Yeah. Do what makes you happy, and do what's best for you. Do what you want to do.
I mean,
have your own thoughts, have your own opinions.
Now do it wisely too. Don't go out there
within budget.
Try to pick up, super fractors or, Topps Dynasty, especially at these prices nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, this was a very interesting topic, and I appreciate the chat for chiming in, giving us y'all perspective. Did mention a lot of good players that fell in that category, made a lot of good points, so I mean, it was awesome. What do you
don't have to be the first to get the card. Don't rush it. Take your time.
Yeah, be patient.
Patience
saves you some money.
It does. It will. You don't have to have it right away.
And that is great advice if you're just looking for a high print run type of product. If it's something serialized to like 5, maybe 10.
Or if it's just something that you want, that's totally different. If it's something you want, that's great. But I think, like you said, the moral of all of this is the moral of the story is stay within your budget and have the most fun you can, and however you want to spend it with that money. Then this hobby is a lot of fun, and things can stay with for a long time. Jenny, thanks for dropping in everyone's channel.
Yep. Thank you, Jenny.
In the
Jenny,
chat.
as always, I appreciate you.
We saw Diamond Princess back in the chat here. Mm-hmm. Welcome back.
Yep, welcome back, DP. It only took you about 3
Maddie
years.
Ice is here. Yeah, Maddie Ice is here.
So, but yeah, I mean, this was actually fun. It made me do a little thinking about other players than those that I actually invest in.
Yeah, I'm not, and my mind's not changed at all about the players that I like to collect. So
right,
I think that's what's key. It just reaffirms that having fun with who I collect, and
also you didn't have 5 different topics to prepare for. Also,
yeah, I'm really I barely got through grade school. You guys got to just take it easy on me. These homework assignments, just ease me back into it. Not this.
Well, here's the thing, though, Arnie. You've only spent 1 season in each grade. Is that correct?
I think it was. They didn't tell me they were seasons. I just knew they felt really, really long. So
okay, because I did. If you wanted to go down it, I did 2 tours in the 4th grade.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a fun grade, man. I miss show and tell, bringing in my cards and my action figures and stuff. When I was in, I think that was kindergarten. Yeah, probably not cards at that point. I definitely brought in some He-Man action figures though. Those were the days when school was fun.
But yeah, this was a fun topic, and I guess this would be the ideal method to go down going forward. Just we come to an agreement of what would be ideal to bring up to be more interactive, I guess, rather than keeping up with a whole bunch of stuff. But now, if it's something that is relevant, like upcoming releases or something significant that affects hobbyists, not something along the lines of Fanatics is minimizing their Fanatics Fest shows because of money. Okay, who gives a shit about that? Don't care about that. Okay,
right.
But yeah, if anything comes up that is relevant to us as everyday collectors, we'll incorporate additional topics if needed, but we'll try our best to keep them at the minimum and focus more on the main
Wow.
topic of discussion.
You see, Nate, I know you touched on it earlier, but today at the card show, I sold every skeins I had. Couldn't keep them in the box. Yeah.
Yeah. My comment, I replied,
Flavor
keep
of the
selling them.
month.
Yeah, keep
There you
selling
go.
them, man. Sell them and get yourself some
Good for
hobby
you.
money and do your thing.
Now, what's going to happen when he's subpar in the 25 season?
And even if he's good, you don't kick yourself in the you know what?
Yeah.
You should have hung on to him because we're all experts after the fact. You know, no one knows. You know,
anybody can be a Monday morning quarterback.
And you know, that's like saying, "Hey, I bought a card for this and it's worth more now." Okay, but if you're not selling it, who cares? Like, just you move on and you make mistakes and you learn and hopefully you do better on the next card. That's all you could say.
This is true. All right, gentlemen. So we are 6 minutes shy from 2 hours.
There we go.
It was good again. So any upcoming events going on your channel there, Mike?
Nah. I'm gonna kind of take it easy. I'm just gonna
kind of last 3 times.
Yeah, no, this time I am. I think I'm just gonna kind of cruise through Christmas. I have a couple of videos on my phone, and I actually have some other stuff coming in that I'm gonna open up for myself and shoot a video for and put it up there. But other than that, I don't see any breaks in the future. I do have one thing that I want to try to get out to the Cardmunity is that I don't know. I've seen a couple of posts on Facebook that Trucker Tim's daughter got in an accident with a horse. The horse.
No, I don't think it was Trucker Tim. I think it was Mountain Family Cards.
Oh, was it Mountain Family?
Yeah.
Why is it Mountain? Why am I thinking Trucker Tim?
Maybe Tim commented on it first.
Oh,
you only see the first comment or the top comment.
Oh, it's Daryl Tabler, right?
Yeah.
From Mountain Family. Okay. So what I was thinking about doing, it's just going to be a little quick thing. Is I'm thinking about getting one of those Hit Parade boxes and doing a little raffle or something like that on that. I think it'll be the quickest way.
A quick fundraiser.
It'll be a quick fundraiser. That's the only thing that's going to be there. It's going to be like $5 for the auto, $10 for the ball, $15 for the jersey, and all 3 for $25. There's a new one that just came out from David Adams, and it's really cool. It's series 4. And Fuego and I went through it. They actually have a sale on it, so I can probably get it for like $250. I would really like to sell 40 spots in that.
Absolutely.
At 25 a spot. I mean, and if we can do it, if we could do it, that would be awesome. I'm going to put that together let's see, probably maybe Monday or Tuesday and get it out to everybody. It's part of the Cardmunity. I think it's something that we can do. Mountain Families, I've known them for probably about 4 years. Never really interacted that great, but whenever your daughter or something, because I know I've lost a child in my life, and there's nothing worse that can happen to a parent ever than losing a child. So I want to do something for them. I feel it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, agreed.
And I hope that the worst doesn't happen. I hope everything goes well, that she recovers 100%. But it just brought back so many memories, and I just want to do something for them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I want to do a quick shout out to my brother who just chimed in with the 20
again.
Oh no, I am not wearing a hat. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to go to the hairdresser today and get my hair did, but my barber's out of town, so I got to wait till Monday.
Oh, that's why you look like a
hot mess. Yes. But that's okay though. So Arnie, what you got going on in your world?
I have been pondering another break, but I've been now that I'm caught up and I've got a bunch of stuff reorganized, some stuff fixed on the website, stuff like that. Just a typical Friday show. I am doing free break credit. It's up to my 50th episode of the live card shop show on Fridays. So last week was the 45th episode. Yesterday was the 46th. Each week I'm going to give away the break credit up to that dollar amount. You do not have to be, you don't have to buy anything, but you do have to be in the chat, just hanging out. So when I do it, anybody can win. So next week, $47, $48, $49, up to the 50th episode. And then I'll just reset and do something different. But the only thing I have is I know the product went up a little bit, but that's okay because I paid what I paid earlier for the stuff.
Mhm.
So I have a full case of 12 hobby boxes just sitting here of Pro Debut. That's 48 autographs. So if I can get that break into like the mid 40s per team with 48 autos in a full case, it'll be a lot of fun. But what I'm going to do is mix base because most of us are set builders. Obviously, the guy who hits the Pirates, I'm not going to do, take away all your Paul Skeens. The big key rookies, you'll get all your cards, but the rest of the stuff mixed base so I could sort it less, not have to pay someone to help me, and then I can do the break for a lot cheaper. So I think I'm going to post that maybe tonight or tomorrow, and then when it fills, maybe we'll do it next week or something. But that's all I've got. Just going to kind of take it week by week from here on out and focus on the Friday show more often than anything else.
Awesome. Well,
how about you, Fuego? Do you have a new lineup coming out from a PSA reveal?
No, not a new lineup. So I went ahead and did a J-Rod show, and I did it in 3 segments. But with this one, I'm actually going to go ahead and showcase my Alex Rodriguez collection, but it's going to be a live stream that's going to be kicking off tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
sounds like a plan.
If y'all want to go ahead and roast me and disregard everything that we talked about in the live stream today, that's all good. I don't really care. In my opinion, all I'm gonna just do is smile and say fuck you very much and keep it moving.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
So, but other than that, hope to see everybody tomorrow. We'll be back here doing it again next Saturday. Same bad time, same bad channel. And it was real fun. I appreciate the panel for hanging out, keeping this train driving. So we're going to go ahead and end it here. And we will see everybody throughout the week. And we'll all get together again next Saturday. So have a good night, everybody.
Appreciate everybody.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much.